Hi people, it's me Anja, my pronouns are she and her, and welcome back to my channel for a new video. I made a video at the very beginning of this year talking about my most anticipated 2022 new releases. So honestly, these books are like second place to those books, if that makes any sense. And I'll link that video in the description box below if you haven't seen it already. But anyway, with that said, the first book on this list is called Wild is the Witch. This book comes out the 2nd of August, and I'm so excited for it. It's a YA contemporary fantasy that follows a young witch who accidentally enacts a curse that may or may not have dire consequences, and she must team up with a boy who hates witches to make sure that that said consequence doesn't actually happen. I don't know if that makes any sense, but basically I'm so excited for this book because it's written by the same author who wrote The Nature of Witches last year, which was one of my almost favorites of 2021, and it was so good. So naturally I have very, very high expectations for this book, and I love the idea of like a witch teaming up with somebody who doesn't like who she is, because like why would he agree to that, you know what I mean? I'm so excited to read this book. It sounds so awesome, and The Nature of Witches was so amazing and so atmospheric, so I really hope that this book lives up to those expectations. But anyway, like I mentioned earlier, this book comes out the 2nd of August, so I'm really looking forward to it. The next book on this list is called Ravenfall. This book is a middle grade urban fantasy that comes out the 30th of August, and it follows two main characters who both have supernatural powers, and they must team up because they have a common enemy. This book sounds like it's going to be so cool and absolutely so awesome. I have really high expectations for this book because it's written by the same author who wrote the Stormcloak duology, which I really like, and I think it's so underrated. So I really hope that this book will be like that book. If I'm being completely honest with you, urban fantasy used to be one of my least favorite subgenres of fantasy, but honestly, the more I read it, the more that I tend to like it more and more over the years, if that makes any sense. So basically, I really hope that this book will be completely like so awesome and so amazing. I love it when main characters team up because they have a common enemy, and I'm really curious as to see what that common enemy is and like what those supernatural powers are. You know, like it sounds so awesome and so cool, and as you all know, I love middle grade and I love fantasy in general, so I really hope that this book lives up to my very high expectations. So anyway, with all of that said, this book comes out the 30th of August, and I'm really excited. The next book on this list, I believe, comes out the following week, the 6th of September, and it is The Sunbearer Trials. For those who don't know, this book is a YA fantasy starring a transgender main character, and it's marketed as Percy Jackson meets The Hunger Games, and it's written by the same author of Cemetery Boys and Lost in the Neverwoods, two books that I've really enjoyed, so naturally I have very high expectations for this book. The concept sounds so cool and absolutely so inventive, and I have such high expectations because we all know that Aiden is literally so talented and so wonderful, and his books have been so awesome in the past. Like literally Cemetery Boys is so good. Lost in the Neverwoods, in my opinion, is also really good. So I know that this book is going to be really awesome and really great. Fantasy is such a wonderful genre because it's full of so many possibilities, and I have no idea what to expect from this book. Like literally, Percy Jackson meets The Hunger Games. What in the world does that mean? Anyway, I'm so excited to read this book. It comes out the 6th of September, and I'm really looking forward to it. The next book on this list is called Rust in the Loot. This book comes out the 20th of September, and it's a YA historical fantasy set in 1937, starring black people, and it's written by the same author who wrote the Dread Nation duology, which I really enjoyed last year, and I really hope that this book lives up to those expectations, although I hope that it's not anti-indigenous the way that Dread Nation was. Anyway, this book sounds like it's going to be so cool and so awesome. If you didn't know, historical fantasy is my favorite subgenre of fantasy because it's a mixture of two of my favorite genres, historical fiction and fantasy. And the author did such a great job with the Dread Nation when it came to like developing the world and developing the characters and like the fantastical elements and all of those things. So I'm really hoping that this book will be like Dread Nation in those aspects. You know what I mean? So anyway, with that said, I have really high expectations for this book because the concept sounds so cool and so awesome, especially set in 1937, because honestly, I haven't read a whole lot of books set during that time period. So I'm really excited for this book. It comes out in late September, and I'm really looking forward to it. The next book on this list is called Malekit and the Ocean of Stars. I don't know if I pronounced the main character's name correctly, so let me know if I didn't. But anyway, this book comes out the 18th of October, and it's a middle-grade fantasy inspired by Filipino culture, and it follows a young girl who must embark on a quest to save her family from a shadow god. This book sounds like it's going to be so cool and absolutely so awesome. First of all, the cover is so marvelous and absolutely so pretty. Second of all, I love reading middle grade and I absolutely love reading fantasies. As I mentioned earlier, fantasy is my number one favorite genre because like it's full of possibilities and I have no idea what to expect because the limits are endless. You know what I mean? Second of all, I love reading stories that are inspired by different cultures. So reading a book that's inspired by Filipino culture sounds so awesome and absolutely so cool. And honestly, the number of like South Asian fantasies that I've really enjoyed, I can count on one hand, which is really sad. But anyway, this book sounds like it's going to be so cool and absolutely so awesome. So with all of that said, I'm really looking forward to this book. And like I mentioned, it comes out the 18th of October. The last book on this list, and hopefully not the least, is called A Wilderness of Stars. And this book is a YA paranormal fantasy, and it comes out the 29th of November, and it follows a young astronomer that must find a mysterious message from the stars in order to save everybody from a mysterious illness that's cursing the land. I have no idea what that means, but this book sounds like it's going to be so awesome and absolutely so inventive and so creative because it's written by the same author who wrote Winterwood and The Wicked Deep, two books that I really enjoyed. I believe they were both magical realisms or contemporary fantasies or something like that. So I guess this book is more of like a fantasy than an urban fantasy, but I don't really know. Anyway, I'm so excited to read this book because The Wicked Deep and Winterwood were both so good and so atmospheric and magical that I'm really hoping that this book will also be so magical and so atmospheric. And I don't know what it is, but I love reading books lately that are about like mysterious illnesses that are killing everybody, but nobody knows why. And the part of the conflict is like figuring out why or to save everybody from it. Maybe it's because I lived through a pandemic, so I like reading about a similar situation, but I don't know how that's like escapism for me. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's comforting to read about characters who are like experiencing a similar situation than I am, but only in fantastical settings, because I don't like reading about that in a dystopian, like apocalyptic setting, but only in a fantastical setting. I don't know what that says about me, but anyway, I digress. I'm so excited to read this book because it sounds so awesome and so cool. So anyway, this book comes out the 29th of November, and I'm so excited to read it. So, in conclusion, I'm really looking forward to these books, and I will probably talk about them again in their corresponding monthly TBRs. All of their release dates will be in the description box below, and honestly, I really hope that my excitement for them increases your expectations. So anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please don't hesitate to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below the apple emoji if you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thanks for watching, subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!